Hi, I'm Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of RegAlytics, with your update on this week's 30,037 regulatory alerts. I asked ChatGPT how to make these videos more viral, and it said I should just make them shorter. But you know what? I won't do it. Seriously, I can obviously just do the highlights and snippets of sexy topics, but you know me. I have to give the background. And today, the regulator of the week is the U.S. Congress, which has proposed in its super budget bill to force the U.S. states to put a 10-year moratorium, and that means they're supposed to stop any enforcement related to artificial intelligence. So, wow, let's unpack that. In the Constitution, the Supremacy Clause states that federal law is the supreme law of the land, meaning it overrides any conflicting state law. And this certainly has been challenged over the years, starting with Gibbons v. Ogden in 1824, when a New York shipping law conflicted with a federal shipping law, and a boat operator was challenging a monopoly on the Hudson River, of all places, which is just a few blocks away from me. This Supreme Court case set the stage for the 200-year doctrine called the preemption doctrine, which is it's basically a decision tree of when the federal rule preempts, meaning it trumps a state rule. And generally, when it comes to emerging trends, Congress actively doesn't preempt in some of their laws. They, in fact, leave it to the laboratory of the states to grapple with new stuff. And think, for example, cannabis. People have been dying for the federal government to come up with a plan for cannabis, which they haven't done. Or you look at data privacy. Europe came out with this huge GDPR rule. California came out with the CCPA rule, and Congress has been mute about data privacy. So it's a bit early for the federal government to take over something like artificial intelligence, but also it's very unusual from, I'll say, a traditional Republican mindset that wants the federal government's power decreased, right? It's also a little odd because this administration wants to be tough on crime, and guess what a lot of these state laws are working to prevent? But really bad actors using AI to commit crimes like theft and manipulation and impersonation and fraud and trauma, right? Think about the Taylor Swift deepfake laws. And they're dedicating state resources and state budgets to hunt and stop these bad actors. So it seems extra weird that the federal government explicitly wants the states to stop enforcement, because I can't imagine Congress wants global AI actors around the world committing theft and crime on Americans without some sort of consequences. So I'm curious what infrastructure they expect to put in place to prevent things like this from happening. And I am not the only one surprised. The current count is about 39 attorney generals from the states that are suing to stop this particular part of the bill because, obviously, as you know from watching my videos, there are lots of rules the states have passed over the last 3 years on artificial intelligence. Even NASA, which is not NASA, the space organization, but NASAA, the North American Securities Administration Association. This is a club of regulators within the state. Even they wrote a letter in opposition to this. The topic of the week is finfluencers. So what are finfluencers? They're like any social media influencer, but specifically they're ones that talk about financial investments. And the reason this is a topic of the week is because a very important global regulator, IOSCO, which is the International Organization of Securities Commissions, put out a study on their recommendations in relation to all security regulators in the world, which means the SEC is going to read this, and of course NASA, which I just talked about, but all of the rest of the security regulators of the world. And basically it says regulators need to start reaching out to finfluencers to educate them on where the lines are and when they go over the line and have to register in order to do what they do. So the last thing I'm going to say is we are getting a lot of inbound requests if you can use machine learning on RegAlytics data. And the answer is yes. You can actually train agents to take on a persona, for example, an options trader versus a data privacy officer. And it takes the 3,000 alerts this week and filters them for those personas. And then you can give it feedback. This is burning hot, needs to be handled. This is interesting, but no action is required. And this alert is not relevant to me at all, in which case the feedback goes back to the agent, which learns and delivers that improvement the following week. So yes, if you are rethinking how your team is staying on top of changing rules, give us a call, because we are the next generation of regulatory horizon scanning. And that's it this week for RegAlytics. We have the global supply chain of all of the world's regulatory alerts in one very easy to use place. And if you need anything related to regulation, give us a call.